Good morning and welcome to the second of two hearings focused on the Older Americans Act State Plan on Aging. Before we get started, I'd like to cover some housekeeping and logistics items, and then I'll pass it to Director Wade for welcoming remarks. This hearing is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the California Department of Aging's YouTube channel, and you can find the presentation on the department's Older Americans Act State Plan page. Participants will be muted during presentations. However, we are reserving about 30 minutes at the end for public comment. So you can enter the queue to make a comment by selecting the raise hand icon on your Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. If you're joining us by phone, you can press *9 to enter the queue. And we welcome comments at any time via the Q&A, also located on your Zoom toolbar. Today's hearing offers several accessibility features, including American Sign Language, interpretation, and closed captioning. Closed captioning can be enabled by selecting the CC icon on your toolbar. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kim McCoy-Wade, Director of the California Department of Aging.
Good morning. It is wonderful to be with all of you for this, our second hearing on the California Older Americans Act State Plan for Aging. It is my great privilege to welcome you here, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of what has been a busy and at sometimes challenging time for so many older adults and families to provide your valuable input. As you may know, every 4 years, California is required to submit a state plan on aging to the Federal Administration for Community Living. But we actually see it as an opportunity to align our strategies with you, with our local partners, our federal partners, and importantly this year, the Governor's Master Plan for Aging and our comprehensive COVID response and recovery. So the plan will outlines our specific goals and objectives related to the Older Americans Act and our partnership with the 33 local area agencies on aging in providing meals, including home delivery, which was so vital this past year, transportation, family caregiver support, digital divide, and so much more as we all help older adults live in the homes and communities we all want to be in. Your participation is essential. We had a robust and diverse conversation on Monday, and we look forward to doing the same today. So we will be primarily in listening mode after these initial welcoming comments and walkthrough of the plan by CDA's team. We want to hear from you and take your input and incorporate it into the final plan, which will be submitted to the federal government in June. And we will be sharing these hearings, these comments, and the impact it's had on the draft as we go forward. With that, I want to hand it over to one of our key partners. As you see in our plan, partnership is essential in aging, and we perhaps have no better partner than the California Commission on Aging and their chair, who has been a great friend and mentor and colleague to me, Ellen Schmeeding.
Hi there, good morning. I'm Ellen Schmeeding, and I serve as the chair of the California Commission on Aging. It's with great pleasure that I co-chaired the public hearing today with Director Kim McCoy-Wade. As some background, the Commission on Aging is an independent state agency designated in state statute, and we serve as the principal advocate for older adults in California and advise the governor, our state legislature, California Department of Aging, and other state entities that are responsible for designing, funding, or administering programs that impact our older Californians. Our commissioners also serve as subject matter experts. They're on stakeholder committees, such as our Master Plan for Aging, Disability, and Aging Community Living Advisory Committee, the Alzheimer's Task Force, and others. We actively participate and advise the department in the preparation of the state plan, and we're here to proudly conduct the state plan public hearings. We advocate for older adults on issues impacting their well-being and lead advocacy efforts and connect with partners on a broad range of policy issues. We also inform and educate policymakers about issues impacting older adults and solutions, as well as educating older Californians, their caregivers, families, and service providers about critical programs, funding, and service innovations. And we use our Age Watch newsletter to do so. And I encourage all of you to sign up to receive our newsletter. This past year has been such a challenging one, especially for older adults. As you so well know, this is the group disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, at risk for infection, hospitalization, and death. As the Chief Operating Officer for St. Paul's Senior Services, I was on the front line during this pandemic time and experienced the impacts for seniors that live with us in residential programs and served by our PACE. And these were the folks most at risk. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most heartbreaking times I've ever lived through. And the thing that made a difference was our frontline heroes, every single day coming to work to serve and support our seniors. But the pandemic amplified pre-existing social inequities tied to race, class, and access to healthcare, particularly among Latino, African American, and Pacific Islander communities, experiencing higher death rates relative to their populations. Today, looking at the draft Older Americans Act State Plan on Aging, it places equity and access for all at the center. This is an important endeavor that we must undergo to address the impacts of systemic and structural racism that have been highlighted so painfully by the pandemic. I served as a former AAA director in San Diego, and I know how important it is to gather input for our local area plans from seniors and persons with disabilities throughout our region. Today, we'll be doing the same and reviewing our draft state plan. We want to hear from you and our communities served by the State Plan on Aging. It's a great honor to be here today, and I look forward to today's discussion and input. And now I'd like to hand this off to our California Department on Aging Deputy Director, Mark Buckley.
Great, thank you so much, Ellen, and it's so good to be here with all of you today. Next slide. So I will be providing an overview of the Older Americans Act State Plan. The state plan, each year, the federal government provides millions of dollars in funding for programs authorized under the Older Americans Act. These programs provide vital services for older adults related to nutrition, health and wellness, caregiver support, and much more. In order to receive this funding, as Director McCoy-Wade had said earlier, California must submit an Older Americans Act State Plan on Aging to the Federal Administration for Community Living once every 4 years. The plan must include goals and objectives related to the Older Americans Act programs. California's next Older Americans Act State Plan is due to the Administration for Community Living on July 1st, 2021, and then goes into effect at the start of the federal fiscal year, October 1st, 2021. The California Department of Aging, as many of you may know, is California's designated state unit on aging for the Older Americans Act. In this role, CDA conducts contracts with the state's 33 local area agencies on aging to provide services authorized under the Older Americans Act and the Older Californians Act. This includes, among other programs, congregate and home delivered meals, supportive services for community living, support for family caregivers, disease prevention, health promotion, and Medicare counseling, elder abuse prevention and legal assistance, and advocacy for those who live in long-term care facilities. Those are just a few of the numerous programs that our local AAAs provide. CDA provides leadership and oversight for these Older Americans Act programs, and with the input of Health and Human Services Agency, develops the Older Americans Act State Plan once every 4 years. The 2021-25 Older Americans Act State Plan will serve as the blueprint for California's Older Americans Act network to build equitable, age-friendly communities through programs, partnerships, services, outreach efforts, and advocacy. The following played or will play an important role in California's state plan for the next 4 years. Lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, including the equity issues it raised, which Ms. Schmeeding had referred to earlier. We saw during the pandemic the pandemic emphasized many issues related to significant health disparities, income disparities, and service disparities among the diverse communities served throughout California. The Act will also include priorities identified in the 2024 area plans that were developed by the state's 33 local area agencies on aging. It must address statutory requirements and federal guidance. The information from the governor's master plan for aging, so the 5 bold goal areas and 23 strategies encompassed within the master plan, also inform the Older Americans Act state plan. CDA's new strategic plan, which addresses 5 key goal areas for the department. And I would say, very importantly, input from stakeholders and members of the public. So all of you on this call today, as well as those of you who may wish to visit our website to take an online survey, the survey will be available through May 5th. This is the second of 2 public hearings that we're holding on the state plan, and we really look forward to hearing your comments at the end of this, this portion of the presentation. And with that, I will hand the next section of the presentation to Michelle Davis, who is the branch chief for Older Americans Act programs at the California Department of Aging.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. I have the opportunity to read the goals and the objectives outlined in the draft state plan. Goal number 1, public information and assistance. California will expand public access to information, assistance, and services related to aging, disability, and caregiving with an equity lens to ensure access for all Californians. Objective A, no wrong door. Create a statewide California's No Wrong Door network by making aging and disability resource connections, ADRCs, available throughout the state, building on a foundation of 6 existing ADRC providers that serve 1/3 of the state as of 2021. Objective B, health insurance counseling and advocacy. Expand access to Medicare and health insurance counseling and advocacy services, also known as HICAP. Objective C, California Aging and Adults Information and Assistance Telephone Line, modernize statewide California Aging and Adults Info Line, 1-800-510-2020 with the AAA network. Objective D, equitable access, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion of and by aging service providers, including expanded language access throughout the network. Next slide. Goal 2, home and community living. California will help people live in their homes and communities of choice by supporting nutrition, health and well-being, and caregiving through culturally competent and in-language services. Objective A, nutrition. Expand equitable access to nutrition and nutrition education services to meet the need following a record-setting number of meals provided as part of the COVID-19 response. Objective B, family caregivers. Strengthen support for local programs delivering family caregiver support. Objective C, family prevention and home modification. Expand equitable access to new fall prevention programs. Objective D, system leadership. California will strengthen its system of accessible and equitable home and community living services statewide for older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers. Goal 3, inclusion, equity, and prevention of isolation and mistreatment. California will promote inclusion and engagement and seek to prevent isolation and mistreatment of older adults and people with disabilities through culturally competent and in-language services. Objective A, behavioral health support. Support the behavioral health of older adults, adults with disabilities, and caregivers with culturally relevant and accessible programming. Objective B, digital connections. Narrow the digital divide and connect more older adults to digital information, services, and engagement. Objective C, community engagement. Increase opportunities for engagement for older adults to remain active in their communities, including at senior and community centers. Objective D, elder justice. Promote culturally responsive elder justice strategies to reduce elder mistreatment. Goal 4, long-term care resident rights and well-being. California will increase access to information and advance the rights and well-being of older adults and with people with disabilities living in licensed nursing homes, residential care communities, and their friends and family as appropriate, especially informed by lessons of the COVID-19 pandemic. Objective A, long-term care ombudsman, LTCO, rights. CDA will protect the rights of long-term care residents. Objective B, LTCO, well-being. Support culturally relevant programs and activities that enable older adults and people with disabilities to remain actively engaged with their friends, family, community activities, and personal interest while living in a congregate setting. Goal 5, partnerships. California will strengthen partnerships to advance California for all ages. Objective A, tribal organizations. Expand Native American residents and tribal organizations' access to Older Americans Act programs and services provided through the Older Americans Act. Objective B, healthcare. Explore partnerships involving healthcare plans, long-term services and supports, LTSS, providers, government programs, and other health entities. Objective C, California for All Ages Network. Support local aging, disability, and caregiving leaders in developing master plans for aging. Goal 6, modernization of CDA. California will modernize and enhance the resources, tools, and infrastructure necessary to deliver quality services and promote a positive, diverse, inclusive, and professional corporate culture in support of CDA, its federal designated state unit on aging. Objective A, operations. Streamline CDA's planning, monitoring, program operations, and fiscal processes related to AAAs and the network of providers. Objective B, data and technology. Upgrade and integrate technology and data for action and performance. Objective C, state, local aging services governance structure. Organizational alignment of state and local aging networks is needed to achieve person-centered, data-driven, equity-focused outcomes for the growing and diversifying population of older adults, people with disabilities, and family caregivers in California. And now I'd like to turn it back to Mark Beckley.
Thank you, Michelle. So we've talked to you about what's included in the Older Americans Act State Plan. Let's take a second to talk about what's not included so that when you're reviewing the plan, you have clear expectations about what to look for and what to expect. In January 2021, the governor released his master plan for aging. And the master plan for aging is a comprehensive framework for all services, activities, and supports that assist older adults, individuals with disabilities, and family caregivers. The Older Americans Act State Plan specifically addresses those programs that are delivered by our local area agencies on aging and fall within the Older Americans Act. So some examples of areas that are addressed in the Master Plan for Aging but are not addressed in the Older Americans Act State Plan would include items such as housing options and geriatric care expansion. So if you're looking in our Older Americans Act State Plan and you see something missing that's because it's not addressed by a local area agency on aging. And you should take a look at the master plan for aging if you haven't already, to see the wide array and diversity of services that are covered in the master plan for aging. Okay, with that, I think I will hand it over to Maria for our question and answer portion of the presentation, the public comments portion.
Thank you, Mark. So we're going to pivot a little bit and move into public comments. As a reminder, the department and commission is in listening mode. So we're looking forward to hearing your comments, reflections, and feedback about the plan. And I know the team will be furiously jotting down notes, but we may not be able to actively respond to questions at this time. So you can enter the queue to make a comment by selecting the raise hand icon on your toolbar, or if you're joining us by phone, press *9. And of course, we're welcoming written comments through the Q&A. Let's get started. A comment from Laura. The governor's master plan and the 2021-2025 state plan do not sufficiently address coercive control, predatory marriage, and undue influence. With the coming silver tsunami, our seniors must be protected from predators, especially financial predators and sweetheart scammers. Civil law is prohibitively expensive and not available to 95% of Americans. Criminal law for coercive control, predatory marriage, and undue influence must be implemented to protect our seniors. Thank you so much for sharing that, Laura. Joe submitted a comment requesting AARP California to offer plan feedback. So AARP California, if you're on and you want to join the queue and offer your feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Let's see. Joe, I see you've got your hand up, so I will open your line in case you have something else you would like to add. You may need to unmute.
I saw the prompt. Thank you very much.
Great.
So, yeah, can you hear me loud and clear? Terrific. So thank you for the opportunity to provide feedback. Firstly, I see familiar faces. Ellen, hello, how are you? Delighted that you're representing San Diego as well as the rest of the state in making sure that California Department of Aging is focused on doing the right thing. So as state president of AARP California, I'd like to provide feedback to the plan. Firstly, we commend the Department of Aging for staging a new direction under the leadership of Director McCoy Wade. So thank you for your leadership. We offered specific suggestions that were outlined in full on a letter that was submitted and signed by our Executive Director, Nancy McPherson. The letter was dated April 23rd. So we have some specific suggestions that were outlined on that letter. But I'd like to highlight a few key points, if you will. We, as well as other organizations, believe that the plan has ambitious goals. It can only be achieved if there is continued funding support from the government, right? So we support continuous sustainable funding. Under goal number 1, the No Wrong Door Network plan is terrific. We at AARP support expansion of the number of ADRCs, and that is also in the plan to provide access to many Californians. So it's good to see that. Under goal number 1, objective C, we are also pleased to see information and assistance in partnership with the ADRC expansion, and that's highlighted prominently in the plan. So that's good to see. The CDA promotes information online on all its platforms, and we would like to offer AARP as a potential partner to get the word out, especially in vulnerable population, seniors 50 plus. So count us in terms of education and outreach that is person-centered, culturally appropriate, very important, multilingual and in language, because that is key to connecting to communities that are highly diverse culturally. Under goal number 4, long-term care residents' rights and well-being, specifically objective A, it's good to see that resources are being provided to inform residents of long-term care facilities and residential care facilities as far as their rights are concerned. And we support this as well. This is a very challenging population. There's a segment to this population that are on the provider side, caregivers that are not exactly clinical people. And so they need to understand that the rights and expectations when it comes to advocating for their residents. Goal number 4, that is the long-term care ombudsman to continue the effort in terms of providing oversight and well-being when it comes to the residents as provided by the ombuds program. And the challenge, as you know, is with the pandemic, volunteers to the ombuds program have been discouraged to go out and do their volunteer work for obvious reasons. And there's really a key, or there's really value in ensuring that we get those volunteers back to make sure that we have enough volunteers out in the field to assist staff in terms of providing oversight when it comes to residential care facilities. So my input when it comes to the ombuds program is also informed by my volunteer work at San Diego. I'm part of the Aging Independent Services Advisory Council representing District 1, that's Supervisor Nora Vargas's district, South Bay, which is highly diverse. I don't speak for the Advisory Council, but I can tell you that the conviction on the part of AARP to ensure that we have a robust and engaged long-term care ombudsman program is so critical. In light of the pandemic, we need to replenish the pool of volunteers and maybe rethink the whole program, specifically when it comes to integration and sharing of best practices across counties. As you know, the ombuds program is county specific. One county may have a different structure and approach, but there are best practices. And I think there's value in sharing best practices. That's a specific suggestion, number 1. Number 2 is collaborating with academia. We have a number of universities that have social work program as part of their curriculum. I think there is opportunity there to get these students to do volunteer work or some kind of a preceptorship to complement the ombuds program. So reaching out to academia and seeing if there is opportunity to collaborate. I think in some counties it's already being done, but I think it should be expanded. Number 3 is using social media as a way to entice volunteers. With the pandemic, it showed us that the virtual connection is quite pervasive. And I think creating a social media presence for the ombuds program will entice potential highly qualified volunteers to join the volunteer pool. And then number 4 is perhaps there's a need to reevaluate the training program and the certification process for the ombuds program volunteers. In my experience, you have to show up in person to do training. The pandemic has shown us that you can actually do virtual training quite effectively. I think there's a place to take a look at a virtual format to train and to use technology to train and empower volunteers so they can complement staff in terms of implementing the ombuds program goals. And then goal number 5 is partnership. The objective C is for California for All Age Network, and AARP is delighted to be part of it. We are committed in terms of implementing the master plan for aging, so count us in terms of support. And number 6 would be the data and technology. So we go back to my suggestion on enhancing the Ombuds program volunteer pool. Using data, using technology is a enabler in terms of not only advancing the goals of the plan, but specifically when it comes to recruiting volunteers. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to provide input here and lining me up to be the first one to offer suggestions. Thank you very much for your consideration. Back to you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your comments.
And actually, I just want to say one thing. Thank you so much to President Garbanzos for being with us and representing AARP. You were the first to comment in writing with your thorough letter, and your comments today have really introduced a range of topics for public. We have lots of questions and comments coming in because of your remarks. So welcome to the presidency, and thank you for being with us today and the partnership ahead.
Thank you very much. A clarifying question. Persons with developmental disabilities are aging beyond their previously expected age span. When we say disability, does this include members with developmental disabilities? And if not, are there plans to coordinate with the DD community to increase access to OAA programs to these individuals?
To clarify the answer, and I apologize for the noise in the background, I may need to partner with my chief deputy on the answer here, but the short answer is yes. Our programs are open to people with all disabilities, including people with DD. Specifically, adult day healthcare and long-term care ombuds come to mind. But Director Bargeman from DDS, Department of Developmental Services, and I have just been talking about how to deepen our partnership on issues like dementia and, of course, home and community living. So we are looking forward to doing more of that in the year to come.
Thank you, Kim. We're going to turn to Bill. Bill, you've had your hand up for a while, so I will open your line and then you can unmute with your comment.
Thank you. I want to leverage a little bit what President Garbanzos stated about data. I'm on a county committee that is developing an ADRC, and although we do know, and it has been mentioned many times in the presentations, about equity issues and lack of access and the disparity through COVID, it would be extremely helpful to have data to back up those statements. I ask that because we at the local level need to be talking with our county board of supervisors to say, these are the benchmarks in our county that we're going after, and that gives us a standard going forward to measure as we start to be more effective. I am a true believer in the ADRC model. And I worked at an INR line way back when I was in an internship, and I know how important it is. And this model is a beautiful model, but we do need data to make the case because obviously we're also getting a push on how are we going to sustain this in the future and so on. So anything we can get in that regard for the local counties, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. A comment here from Allegra about the potential to expand the range of OAA Act programs to include rent subsidies and other housing programs. As we all know, California is struggling with homelessness. And so the goal would be to help seniors and disabled homeless, the homeless population. So thank you so much for that comment. Moving on, comment from Monique. To consider what can be done to strengthen the powers of ombudsmen when the long-term care facilities do not hold up their end of taking good care of residents. Thank you, Monique. Any other comments or questions? Give folks a couple more minutes. As a reminder, you can use the raise hand icon on your toolbar to join the queue for a verbal comment. And you are welcome to submit questions and comments through the Q&A chat feature. Okay, a comment from Christina. Are the state is the state plan and survey available in multiple languages? I think this was something that came up in our first hearing as well.
And the short answer is not yet, and they need to be. And so we are moving to, with the plan in particular, produce a shorter version that can be translated in multiple languages. Spanish was asked about on Monday, but of course we want to do more than that. The survey is a great question, and we will take that back and see what's possible on the timeline. That should have been baked in. So thank you for raising that, Monique. I'm sorry, not Monique. Thank you for raising that, commenter.
Okay, and we're going to turn to Donna. Donna, we've unmuted your line, so feel free to unmute and jump in.
All right, thank you so much. Donna Griggs Murphy. I'm on the Commission on Aging for Alameda County. Just want to continually say thank you, Kim McCoy-Wade. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for making sure that we have these listening sessions, that people are engaged and involved. It's just the Older Americans Month and the funding that we receive in our counties has just been over the years so difficult, but we appreciate, we're still going to continue to dig in. I know that the glass is still half full. I've been doing social work over 20 years now in affordable senior housing, and I just know that our older adults deserve all the efforts that we're making, and I'm appreciating that 2021 is really an engaging and evolving year. So I appreciate all of you. Just want to give kudos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna. Marcy, we've opened your line.
Hi there. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to make a comment around the collection of sexual orientation and gender identity data. You know, without data, we really can't seriously address issues of health disparity. And the more we insist on the collection of sexual orientation and gender identity, the more we can do to reduce health disparities. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. I just want to make sure that you saw our CDA quarterly all stakeholder update last week, where we shared our first cut at the LGBTQ data that our Older Americans Act programs have been collecting for the last 2 years. There are gaps. There needs to be analysis. There needs to be training. And we are committed to do that with the Equity and Aging meeting in June. So we're starting on the, and we should be further along, but we've hope you've seen that new data, and if not, it's posted on our website, and we'll be sure and follow up with you on those next steps, because I couldn't agree more.
Thank you, Kim. Really appreciate that.
Great, thank you so much, Marcy. A comment from Christina Mills, representing CFILC, and then we'll turn to Lori and Cheryl Brown, who have their hands up in the queue. So Christina Mills, the comment is, as the disability and aging communities continue to work and grow together, let's work to ensure that we use respectful and non-medical model programs and services to individuals. Programs and services need to be rooted in the empowerment model that gives individuals respect and dignity. Thank you, Christina. Okay, Lori, we've opened your line. Lori, you may need to unmute.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment. I'm a participant at the LGBT Center. Should I sign up to make a comment or just make it ad hoc?
You can make it right now. We can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to say for this meeting, my name is Lori. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a client at the Los Angeles LGBT Center. And on behalf of the center, I'd like to thank Governor Newsom and the Department of Aging for taking a meaningful step to address the needs of the older adult population, and also to thank the California Commission on Aging for creating this space for public comments. I myself am an LGBT older adult. I have been on housing lists since 2011. My rent is over $1,100 a month, which is 77% of my $1,441 monthly income. That amount is going up $38 soon. which will come to almost $500 more each year. I'm on food stamps, and before the pandemic, I was going to food banks. I live on a second-story apartment with no elevator, and 6 months ago, I had a total knee replacement. I live on the west side of LA where most units are rent stabilized, which is why I've lived in this apartment with no elevator for 23 years. I'm going to have my other knee done, and eventually I'll have to move. So I appreciate everything you're doing, and thank you for letting me speak. Did you hear me?
Yes,
We
Lori.
absolutely did,
Okay,
Lori.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Your story encapsulates so much of what we are trying to work on and accomplish and do better. So thank you for trusting us with it.
Okay, Cheryl, we've unmuted your line, so go ahead and jump in when you're ready. Cheryl, you may have to unmute yourself.
I did. I'm sorry. I thought you unmuted.
All right.
Okay. This is Cheryl Brown, a former assembly member. And I'm thinking that last night at the president's speech, that he talked about caregivers. How will that fit into our program or into the plan that we're developing? And I'm talking about the one that we're working on right now.
Thank you, Cheryl. And through the Older Americans Act, I'm going to quickly hand it over to Mark because of my background noise situation, but it is included in our family caregiver support programs that we are looking to strengthen through Title IIIB. And perhaps, Ellen, you may also have comments on this. And be sure we are effectively braiding with the family caregiver resource centers housed at DHCS in particular. So doing a more comprehensive needs and gap analysis around our family caregiver support is where you'll see it in our OAA state plan.
So does that mean that it will be funded and at some point we can depend on more money going to the caregiver resource centers?
Through the Older Americans Act, more money is coming to family caregiving because of the 4 federal stimulus bills that are coming to the Older Americans Act: Families First, CARES, Consolidated Approach, and now the American Rescue Plan. So there will be more money into supportive services. One of our obligations is to provide better transparency about where that money is going into the many, I think there's over 100 supportive services, which is both the blessing of the Older Americans Act programs that there's such flexibility to meet person-centered needs, but it also makes it hard to see sometimes, well, how much is going for family caregiving? How much is going for legal services? So we want to provide better transparency around that and frankly, alignment so that across the state, more people have more equitable access to a common set of services. So I can't answer your question specifically, former Assemblymember Brown, about whether that money will end up in the family caregiver resource centers. We're working with that association to get, again, better transparency on where the DHCS caregiving money flows and the CDA caregiving money flows, and ultimately which providers and which people are served by that. So that's a work in progress in partnership with that department and with that association.
I have a second part of that. I met with a group this last week, and I know you know that I have a concern that we can have some kind of program that will allow a scale for income scale for services, so that seniors don't have to lose all of their resources, all of their property and everything else, to qualify for some help from the government. I always say we paid into the government and now we can't get anything out because we are in the middle of the income stream. Is there any more talk? I know we talked about it during the master plan, but is there any more talk about how we can phase in middle income people so that they can get some of the benefits, even if it's on a sliding scale?
Sure. So in the CDA Older Americans Act, of course, there is no income test, although they are targeted to people most in need, which can be income or a variety of reasons. And I think there are opportunities that we were learning from New York about charging a sliding scale for services, a private pay model, where people at middle income could pay partial to get some of the robust aging services. But that's only part of the question I think you're asking. The other is, of course, the healthcare questions and around Medicaid issues such as the asset test, which of course is being actively considered by our legislator and governor right now, which does lead to some of those inequities and issues. I have to commend the California Budget Project and California Pan-Ethnic Health Network for great work on that issue. And then of course, Medicare. How can Medicare, where most middle income older adults are, better support long-term services and supports? And so that's in the governor's budget to both have DHCS create a new Office of Medicare Integration and Innovation, and CDA revamp our Medicare counseling service known as HICAP. So work is afoot, but you're absolutely right, Cheryl. I would also encourage people to join me and AARP and others at the new Long-Term Care Insurance Commission, where we are looking at whether the private market is covering the issues of long-term care and what public solutions might be needed at the federal or state level, like the Washington model.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl. I want to swing back around to a comment about housing. The comment is, when we work towards increasing housing options for individuals, we need to educate and encourage visitable housing that allows individuals to age in place. Thank you for that comment, Christina. And we're going to turn to B. Blakeney. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Your line's been open, so you can unmute and jump in.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Bobby Blakeney, and I'm on the Advisory Council, Program Service Saver 32, Monterey County. And I wanted to piggyback off of the assembly person that was just on with regard to programs for persons that do not necessarily meet the asset test. I believe that HICAP counselors are aware, which are Medicare counselors, are aware that there are Medicare savings programs that are available for those that do not meet the asset test. The unfortunate thing, our departments of social services is not getting that information out. The other thing that I wanted to raise, I wanted to know, what is the plan or a model for bridging the generational gaps for technologies? I know since the pandemic, everyone was concerned about the young, especially if they're school age. They did not have the resources to be educated through existing technologies, and the young is always taken care of, but now, we have the other side of the generations where the older Americans are not getting those technologies either. I know at one time that there was something in the master plan with regard to trying to get technologies to older Americans, but I don't see anything in the pipeline, especially with regard to now the emerging ADRCs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stephanie Watts, you've opened your line.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I just had to resist the question, can you hear me now? So thank you so much for taking time to have this hearing. By way of introduction, my name is Stephanie Watts, and I am currently a newly appointed director on the board of the ACB Capital Chapter of the California Council of the Blind. I am myself blind, and I'm also a senior living here in Sacramento, California. I just wanted to kind of comment and ask if you can elaborate a little bit. So I have a sort of a two-part question / comment for you. If you could elaborate a little bit on the plans to narrow the digital divide for seniors. And the comment part of that is also, please, if you would, consider the access needs of those of us who are blind or working with low vision. Many seniors are losing their vision due to things such as macular degeneration. And there are, of course, other reasons, but the reality is, as you're aging, as we age, our vision does change. And for some, it's going to result in a partial vision or total blindness. And so I think it's very important to give a lot of attention to meeting our needs in this narrowing of the digital divide. And so again, if you could please comment briefly on the plan and how it's going to be implemented with respect to narrowing the divide. Again, thank you so much for your time and attention. I really appreciate your comments today.
Thank you very much for both raising the issue of the digital divide for people, older adults with disabilities, and particular assistive technologies for many people with impaired vision. I'm going to ask our Chief Deputy Mark Beckley, who's been leading our digital divide work, to give an update. And if I could put a link to all of our digital divide work in the Q&A or chat, we'll figure out how to do that. But there is more information on our website as well. Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. The digital divide certainly is a priority for the California Department of Aging. The governor released a broadband access executive order last fall, and CDA was specifically called out in the plan to provide for the digital divide for older adults. And so we've been actively working on our digital divide strategy since the release of the executive order. I'll highlight a couple of projects that we have underway and then talk about our longer term strategies. We have received a generous donation of 8,500 Google Smart Home speakers from Google. Those have been deployed to our local area agencies on aging, as well as some of our multi-purpose senior services program sites as well. So, you know, those devices will help older adults with access to information, making phone calls, listening to music. So just a lot of benefits from that project. A second key project that we implemented was purchasing 4,000 iPads for older adults who are low income and who live alone. So the purpose of that project really is to help address issues of loneliness and isolation, which we know can be prevalent among older adults, so that they can have greater social engagement and connection. What I'd also like to add about our iPad project is we have formed a strong partnership with AT&T. They will be providing technical assistance and training on the use of the iPads. And Apple has been very generous in their support, specifically on the issues of accessibility. As a matter of fact, today Apple is doing a training for our AAA directors on accessibility issues, how to increase font size, how to enable, you know, the tablet to be able to speak to you and give advice and instructions. And that's, you know, that's something that we will continue to, you know, embrace, is ensuring that there's good accessibility for any devices that we deploy. On future strategies, we are considering the purchase of additional devices with the additional federal stimulus money to, again, get, you know, more devices, more technology in the hands of older adults, as well as looking for affordable service plans. We know that service plans can be pretty costly, but there are subsidized packages for low-income adults. So we're also looking to work with internet service providers on those plans and to promote those plans. And holistically, I'll just say, we are doing sort of a statewide strategy of where the gaps exist, what are the barriers for older adults and individuals with disabilities in accessing devices and accessing broadband. And with that information, we'll be able to develop some further strategies. I also know that CFLIC have been just amazing in terms of purchasing Chromebooks for individuals with disabilities through the local independent living centers. So I really commend the work of Christina Mills and CFLIC in leading those programs for individuals with disabilities. So that's kind of an overview of our digital divide efforts. And like I say, more to come as we continue to pursue our digital divide strategies.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Stephanie. I do want to read a couple of comments in the Q&A, and then we'll turn to Michael McFadden in just a moment. So one of our comments comes from Nina Weiler-Harwell at AARP, who just wanted to say that we love our caregiver resource centers. They're a critical community resource and are important referrals for AARP because many AARP members do not qualify for other programs. AARP is also working with the FCSC and Dr. Benton on a Latino caregiver project in Los Angeles County called, oh boy, I hope I don't butcher this, Ayudando a Quien Ayuda. Thanks to Commissioner and former Assembly Member Brown for speaking to the funding need for the CRCs. Thank you, Nina. Comment from Christina Mills at CFILC. With the increase in wildfires and other types of disasters and emergencies, we need to look for ways to build disaster resiliency among the disability and aging communities. It is critical that area agencies on aging partner with independent living centers and the statewide Ability Tools and Disability Disaster Access and Resource Program to understand what options might be available for individuals. Training, personal preparedness, backup electricity resources, and other emergency disaster services are an essential requirement in California that need to be expanded and built on. Thank you, Christina. Okay, and clarifying question from Gerald. When will the department begin implementing this new plan? Ellen, Mark, Kim, anybody have a?
Yes, the plan runs with the federal fiscal year. So it's October 1st, 2021, and it's a 4-year plan. And we do annual updates. So our next step is to process all this feedback through the hearings, the surveys. We're actually getting our 33 local area plans, their annual plan update in May. So with all that, we'll be submitting it to the federal government July 1st, taking their feedback, waiting for their approval. And then a final plan begins October 1st with that opportunity for annual improvements.
Thank you. And it looks like Michael may have put his hand down. Michael, if you want to jump in the queue, we'll turn to you. And in the meantime, oh, there you are. So let's open your line. Go ahead and unmute and jump in when you're ready.
All right, sorry, I'd lowered my hand because you had mentioned I was in the queue, so I didn't want to. Good morning. My name is Michael McFadden. My pronouns are he and they. I'm the Associate Director of Programs at the Los Angeles LGBT Center's Senior Services Department. I'd like to thank the California Commission on Aging for creating this space for us to be able to provide public comments. Over a year ago, the Los Angeles LGBT Center wrote to recommend that the California Master Plan on Aging acknowledge and prioritize the unique needs of LGBT older adults. As we have said in many public sector and community aging spaces, a legacy of discrimination has left many LGBTQ adults facing frightening economic insecurity, with 1/3 of older LGBT adults living below or at 200% of federal poverty level. In fact, at the LA LGBT Center, where we service more than 3,000 LGBT older adults a month, we have registered that an estimated 47% of older adults live on less than $2,000 a month, and 1/4 of them live on less than $1,000 a month, $1,000. Nearly 15% of our social services clients are homeless, and approximately 50% of them are paying half or more of their income for housing, as one of our participants mentioned earlier. The pressure of housing insecurity is a constant reality. It's one of the most pressing requests and needs that we have at the center is participants asking for support to find affordable housing and or at risk of homelessness. And that pressure is increasing as cost of living increases. So this is why we are pleased to see some of the recommendations were included in the state's master plan, including recognition of LGBTQ seniors as part of a diverse population of older adults facing lifelong disparities and equities. But we'd also like to underscore some of the challenges that continue to need to be addressed. So specifically, the Master Plan on Aging does not recognize older adults experiencing HIV as one of the marginalized groups listed as one of those facing lifelong disparities and inequities. The California aging agencies must implement policies that require collection of SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity data, which includes implementing AB 959 and AB 677, which requires state departments, including the Department of Aging, to collect SOGI data. The deadline for implementation for both of these bills has passed. And then last, the California aging agencies must develop policies that comply with AB 2719, which designates LGBT older adults as groups of greatest need as a result of cultural and social isolation and implementation of the Older Americans Act and Older Californians Act. The Los Angeles LGBT Center looks forward to discussing these points and sharing what must be part of the state's implementation on the implementation of the master plan, if there is to be a successful effort to provide LGBT older adults with an equitable opportunity to thrive in our state. So thank you again for this opportunity and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Michael. We have a comment from Crystal Rowe in the Q&A. This is really related to the goal 3, objective A, which is focused on behavioral health. Crystal says this is an important goal, especially with the intention to expand services for those with the most severe tier 3 diagnoses and expanding services to those who are homebound and living in remote areas through in-home services and telehealth, for example. In other words, our aging and disabled adults deserve services that meet them where they are at in order to increase accessibility and address the specialized and sometimes complex needs of this population. I look forward to seeing an expansion of the provision of behavioral health services with our service population, and any additional information you can provide about the action-oriented steps that will be taken to achieve this goal per the current plan is much appreciated. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal. And I can just provide a brief update. Yes, behavioral health has only become a higher priority because of the pandemic, both the isolation that older adults and people with disabilities experience staying at home, and also the resilience that has been displayed, continued to be displayed. We dipped our toe in these waters, I will say, with the Friendship Line in response to COVID, scaling the Institute on Aging's Warm Line for loneliness statewide in the weeks after the pandemic began. But once you begin, and of course, I should also say we have local AAAs who have some very strong behavioral health initiatives. I've had the privilege of visiting with some in Los Angeles County and San Bernardino County in particular, but there's more. And so what we have just begun to do is kind of gather some experts in behavioral health and older adults to help us identify what is the right role for the Department of Aging to help lead and convene in partnership with the Mental Health Oversight Commission, in partnership with the Department of Healthcare Services, in partnership with our agency's new Behavioral Health Task Force. We are really looking to learn from what has been done in the past, but also see what some of the new opportunities are around things like, for example, the Friendship Line, creating a bridge to referrals for actual services, potentially, doing some deeper work on suicide prevention with the new office at the Department of Public Health that Assemblymember Ramos helped begin. So we are in a learning and planning phase. The gap is clearly there. The strong models and the experts are clearly there. And we're now trying to pull that together so we can have a much more specific action plan to implement.
Thank you, Kim. Anybody else have comments or questions? Beverly, you will open your line and you can unmute and jump in.
Great, thanks so much. And good morning, everyone. Beverly Yu on behalf of UDW, AFSCME Local 3930, representing over 140,000 IHSS and childcare providers throughout the state. We would like to thank the administration, CDA, CCOA for the OOA state plan today and applaud the efforts to increase care coordination, planning for disasters, uplifting family caregivers, and to support race equity and culturally competent care, as well as for rural older adults. As you know, IHSS is the backbone of our state's elder care system, and IHSS offers a clear alternative to institutional care for older Californians. We must strengthen and expand this critical program based on consumer choice. First step in protecting IHSS, as captured by both the recent Assembly and Senate blueprint, is to permanently restore the 7% cut. We also recommend moving IHSS providers into a statewide collective bargaining model for the purpose of improving job quality, for wages and benefits, and recruitment and retention of providers, especially in the face of the rapidly growing need for care. UDW supports the full implementation of the Governor's Master Plan on Aging, in particular, the recommendations of the LTSS subcommittee to work with the federal government on creating LTSS for all following a social insurance model. There are components in the state plan that can be further strengthened to address access and affordability of LTSS for the majority of older Californians who do not qualify for IHSS as recommended by the master plan, the necessity of workforce development to ensure that many of the proposals in the plan become actionable. Our comments seek to focus in particularly on Goal 5, which is the partnership's Objective B. We support the creation of a affordable and meaningful LTSS benefit following Washington State's example to meet the most pressing needs of seniors and individuals with disabilities. As noted in the plan, California is getting older, the needs are more complex, with the majority of older Californians desiring to age in place. We support the expansion of HCBS and direct care in the home in all aspects of the OOA state plan. For example, the caregiver resource centers offering respite care as a way to make direct care in the home more widely available. We also support the inclusion, expansion of direct care into state Medicaid plans and the expansion of the direct care benefit in Medicare. The state has a clear role to play, and the OOA plan can be a guide to making care in the home more widely available and support the job quality measures that go along with more access to care. Additionally, UDW would like to uplift the recommendation to increase choices to live at home and community. UDW believes that choice is the key to person-centered care and HCBS that work. Creating a coordinated response to the state's LTSS needs is the path forward. We recommend as well including labor representatives that represent the IHSS workforce, a recipient of IHSS, a middle-class family caregiver who is at risk of spending down to Medicaid for access to care for their loved one in the area plan process. We recommend using the planning process to identify and address the key gaps in services and coordination for the spend down or risk of spend down population. AAAs are often the first and last point of contact for families seeking services, not qualifying for services in many cases and returning back to the community with little recourse but for a family member, usually female, to leave the workforce in order to care for the family member, in need of LTSS. We could recommend addressing access and affordability and gaps in care to make clear requests to the legislature on targeted expansion possibilities. In-home services are a clear responsibility of the AAAs, with little responsibility to provide the services directly unless there's a shortage, or the AAAs can provide more economical quality services. We recommend having AAAs move beyond referral and to making affordable direct care more widely available. UW suggests that the state plan process engage on access and raising standards as well. And finally, disaster planning must include an LTSS direct care component. The Camp Fire, a UDW member died alongside their family member's client who was unable to leave their home without greater assistance. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments today. We will provide written comments as well. We appreciate the dedication and leadership from Director McCoy-Wade and Chair Schmedding. We look forward to continuing our work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beverly. Jolyn Parker Oasis, your line's been open.
Thank you. Yes, I'm with San Diego Oasis, an organization that works to prevent isolation and loneliness by providing lifelong learning classes and activities and community engagement. So for Goal 3, I just have a comment about the Digital Divide programs. Oasis embarked on Digital Divide program at the beginning of the pandemic. And while many of you are looking at how to increase your digital divide outreach, we have done it. And we would like everyone to know that we are available for expansion of it or for help with training and understanding how to actually implement the program. It is not easy. We have distributed over 400 tablets, training, providing internet, and access to classes, which helps with the prevention of isolation. We do it as a package, and it's throughout the San Diego County. It was done with private funding through foundations. If funding was available to us in a larger way, we could certainly help with that. And I might comment that while phone training is available through a number of sources, we found that hands down, in-person training is much more effective than any phone training. And as a matter of fact, many of our members found that phone training was not effective. So we would like to offer that as an option for you, and you can contact us at any time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. A couple of comments coming in through the Q&A. Our first one is from Bill, who says county behavioral health systems have been adamant in not providing services for individuals with dementia or Alzheimer's. As the need for these services grow, we should be thinking about a plan for how to serve this population. Thank you, Bill.
And I will just comment, if I can do a cross promotion. Tomorrow is the first meeting of the refreshed Community Living Advisory Committee on Disability and Aging for our Health and Human Services Agency that our secretary will be chairing, but I'll be chairing as well. And we're delighted that County Behavioral Health is a member of the committee, will be at the table and to tackle exactly issues like this. So look forward to diving into that there and elsewhere.
Thank you, Kim. And our next comment is from Dirk. Dirk is sharing that he's an old and frail and wonder about the anxiety of being evicted and wonder about the anxiety of not having enough money for food and just hate the idea of becoming a public charge in my 80s and forward. Dirk says he doesn't think these are novel worries for the aging. How many of us are too prideful to become public charges? What can we do to diminish the stigma of living on other people's tax dollars? Thank you for sharing.
I'll start, and I'd love to have Ellen weigh in as well. So these are not novel worries. These are what we heard loud and clear throughout the master plan process and what our AAAs hear every day in their services and in their phone lines and our partners in the aging and disability. So you are not alone. In fact, these are the major themes. And in fact, your story is what we see all across the state. I want to just acknowledge the groundbreaking work of the late Steve Wallace in talking about elder economic security and what we've all heard of upward mobility in our country. Well, as we get these bonus years, it's about downward mobility. And it has to do with the fact of the price in Los Angeles, the price of housing, in Humboldt County, the price of healthcare. And Social Security has not kept up. And we know people don't have the same pensions and the same private savings that maybe 50 years ago families did. Economy has changed, the world has changed. So I urge all of us, if the pandemic has taught us nothing, it's that we all have to think of this not as individual solutions, but as community solutions. We will all stay home together, we will all mask together, we will all get vaccines together, and that's how we'll recover. And so I would urge you to seek out CalFresh if you need help with food, or come to a community meal or have a home delivered meal. I would urge you to take advantage of all the Medicare and Medicaid options that may be available to you. I would urge you to apply for SSI if your income has fallen. These are for all of us as we age, and our wonderful partners at the AAAs can help you navigate that. I would be remiss if I didn't plug our Aging and Adults info line, 1-800-510-2020, which again connects you with your local aging and disability, who is the best expert on what's available. But these are here for us. And what this is all about is strengthening this network. So it's really, truly here for all of us. There's more of us as we live longer, and we all have different life experiences, as we heard from LA LGBTQ Center and so many of you. But this is for us. Ellen, let me pass it to you to share your perspective.
I really appreciate hearing your comments too, Kim. One of the things I wanted to say is we participated as part of the Master Plan for Aging on the Long-Term Care Services and Supports Work Group. And one of the things that committee was asked to do was think about all Californians and focus in on middle-income Californians, those who need supports, assistance to be able to live in a very wholesome and healthy way and not then become public charges. So I really understand your comment, Dirk. I think your fear is shared by many. One thing that's already come up is the view of the long-term care benefit. And I want to tell you that that is one of the priorities that our committee put forward, is looking at ways we can move towards a benefit that we could pay into and that would be there when needed to provide the in-home care or out-of-home care that many of us will need. So that was one of our top priorities, and the Commission on Aging has carried that forward. This year, that is one of our top priorities, as noted in the master plan, and it's something we'll continue to advocate for and try to assist with bringing to fruition. I can't say enough about how important it is to support the middle income. We can't afford to support all Californians on SSI, Medi-Cal, and other benefits. We have to be able to allow people to live with dignity and receive the supports needed. One other comment I want to make is the push for residential living and to take into consideration middle-income individuals there too. There are any number of initiatives going on now to try to create residential, independent, assisted memory care for middle-income individuals, and that's another very important priority. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll turn to Kashab. I hope I'm saying that right. Your line is open, but you will need to unmute.
Yeah, I have a comment. Like I just heard, we seniors are told that he's lived like 75, 80, 85. These are the bonus years of life. To my understanding, we all human beings individually, each and everyone, need to strive to live for 100 years. And that's what the human beings are born with, that God gifted power and energy. Why should we think of, oh, these are the bonus years? Bonus years need to be used and spent in remembering the superpower God, G-O-D, all capitals. All capitals. That's what I think.
Thank you very much for sharing that perspective. Any other questions or comments? Give folks just a couple more seconds. Again, you can join the queue for a verbal comment by using the raise hand icon on your toolbar or pressing *9 if you're joining us by phone. And comments and questions are always welcome through the Q&A feature. Okay, Kim, I'm not seeing any additional requests, so I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. And thank you to this group for such a rich collection of themes. And I've got another whole page or endless page of notes. And I want to say both, I'm reflecting on the similar themes we heard from the other hearing, things around people experiencing homelessness as we age and how do we prevent and respond to that, a better and clearer inclusion and integration of our work with people with disabilities across the spectrum, developmental, hearing, vision, the whole range of disabilities, but also some new issues that were raised today. I want to thank you for those of you who lifted up emergency services in a strong way. That is something that our programs do and are part of the circle of response. And so we should include that more. And I also want to share with you a comment we received on one of the comments we received on Monday that we didn't receive here about the importance of intergenerational connections and lifting that up more too in our community center work and our other work. So all that's to say, a robust and diverse and clear set of feedback. We have a lot to do to reflect this in the plan and even more so reflected in the work going forward. But I want to thank you for it and remind you that there is a survey that will be out for the next week or so. And so to both do it yourself if you can, and also send it to your networks, friends and family. We'd like to have as many as much input as possible, and we'll take back the translation, see if we can get it up in other languages very quickly. That's a very important correction. And you will see a new version from us in coming weeks. Again, the webpage there will have all the latest updates. With that, I want to send it to Ellen for her closing comments, and otherwise just express again our gratitude for your time and your expertise this morning.
I just want to echo what you had shared, Kim, just what a privilege it is to be a part of these hearings, to hear the thoughtful comments and the passion that underlies so much of what you're sharing with us today. I can honestly say that the focus on aging services that we now have in front of us is more significant than anything I've seen in the last 25 years I've been involved in the aging realm. And I just feel very proud to be associated with all of you and to be a part of what I think is moving us towards real systemic change and support for older adults in California. So thank you again for being able to be a part of this.